Testing 1, 2. One, two.
I'm going to call it to order, guys. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Are we good?
Mr. Vecchio, can you hear us? Well, that's
I can hear you now. I can hear you now.
great. We can hear you. Dr. Nippert, can you hear us?
I can hear you.
Okay, great.
All right, I do have an announcement. The executive session was held prior to this meeting to discuss personnel, and we're going to move on to 3.1, presentation.
Thank you, sir. This evening, we would like to recognize the members of our high school wrestling team. This winter, PGHS Wrestling won the Frontier Division in the Pioneer Athletic Conference with a dramatic 42-21 win over Phoenixville. I was in attendance, enjoyed that very much. In the last regular season game, or match rather. They finished the season 9-9 and went undefeated in our division. Our team is coached by Mr. Jeffrey Madden and assisted by Mr. Derek Galata. Mr. Bechtel, would you be so kind to lead your team up here?
Never. And they all like good weight and everything. They're out there running, making sure they make weight.
We used to wear rubber suits.
Oh, imagine
Run around the
that.
top of the
Really?
pole. They're not allowed.
No.
Sure, thank you. All right, so we are, it's a great situation because we're kind of lined up in, by weights. It's kind of natural for wrestlers to do that. So first we have Derek Galata, assistant coach. And then we have Matt Bechtel, who wrestled at 145 for us. Anthony Testa, who wrestled 106. Jeffrey Strawley, who wrestled 120. Shane Caffrey, who wrestled 152. We have Dominic Sithens, who wrestled 152 also. We have Ethan Hammond, he wrestled 126. All right, we have Trent Allen, he wrestled 138. We have Bryce Caffrey, he wrestled 126. We have Nathan Gillen, he wrestled 132. We also have Brendan Rivera, he wrestled at many weights, everything from 152 to 162 to 172. And he really didn't weigh that much most of that time. He was right, much smaller than that, but did a great job for us and was one of the reasons we did so well at the end of the year. We have Jacob Frederick, who wrestled 189. We have Jake Palladino, who also wrestled 189. We have Dom Domino, who wrestled 215. And our heavyweight was Damian Polloway. And now our team captain has just a couple words for everyone, actually, and the school board.
All right. I'd like to say thank you for the school board and the district for having us here tonight to recognize our hard work throughout the season. It's great to see that all the support is behind us throughout a grueling season where it takes a toll on your body mentally and physically. To come here tonight and see people excited for us that we came out and did our jobs. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Everybody got their pictures? Thank you, guys. You're a good speaker, Mr. Bechtel.
There you go.
Okay.
All right, we're going to move on to public comment first. Do we have any public comment online? All right, no hands raised. I have not received any paperwork. Do we have any public comment in-house? Anybody with public comment? No? Okay, we're going to move on to the report of the superintendent.
Speaking of Color Day, I have 3 things to talk about. This Friday, April 29th, our high school will celebrate the 66th annual Color Day. This is a day to celebrate the tradition, history, and spirit of Pottsgrove. There will be a formal ceremony held in our auditorium to kick off the day. Students will be treated to some reflections from one of our very distinguished alumni, as well as personal thoughts from 10 senior leaders. This year's theme is Navigating Change. Following the ceremony, students will participate in a number of friendly competitions, and at the end of the day, a class champion will be named. Which class will that be?
Obviously.
Okay. Surveys. As I shared in my latest blog, we've posted the results of student, parent, and community member surveys. We're using this feedback from each of these groups to help shape our work moving forward. We'll continue to provide opportunities for all stakeholders to provide feedback. We truly believe that we are more powerful working together to build the best possible experience for our students and community. And moving forward, we plan to survey stakeholder groups at least twice a year. Last item, Athletics Hall of Fame. On Saturday at noon in the high school library, we'll be honoring the latest class of alumni athletes with induction into our Athletic Hall of Fame. This will be our 3rd class to be inducted. Honorees include Ms. Kathy Jo Winterbottom from 81, Mr. Jimmy Sermonaro from 97, Mr. Jermaine Thaxton from 98, Ms. Dana Weems, class of 02, Ms. Megan Van Burskik Carlin from 2006, and the entire 2008 boys soccer team. This is a public event, so please turn out to support our alumni athletes. Not included in my comments, but I do see, I got some late word that our director from the Western Montgomery Center for Technical Education is here, and I'd like to invite him up, if that's okay. Invite him up to introduce himself and say a few words to the board. This is Mr. David Livingood. Thank you, sir. You can sit over there. We're a class act here. Yeah.
So last minute decision to show up. I was talking to Jay on the phone about some other stuff going on at the Western Center, but just to report out, we have 400 or 750 kids coming to the Western Center next year. We're going up enrollment by 150, so that's a big increase. All schools went up in enrollment, and it's a great place to be. So I came in January, and 4 months in, and we're moving on in the right direction. So that's all I have to report out. Maybe in the future I'll have a more formal presentation, but it was a last-minute call. So thank you for your support here. The trades are hot. All technical schools are up in numbers, and the kids are leaving there making $60,000 a year in some jobs. So it's a good place. So thank you. Any questions for me?
No, I just have a comment. First of all, I just love the program and how you've taken over for 3 months. I mean, you're doing a phenomenal job over there. And our numbers, when I first got over there in the JOC, we were in the 400s. So it just shows that the kids are really gravitating to the Western Center because it's top-notch. If you haven't been there yet, we got to get you a tour. But I thank you for all you do, and I just wish all of our students good luck on the NOCTI test coming up because I know they've worked so hard for that.
Yes, NOCTI's tomorrow.
Yeah.
Or Thursday.
Thursday.
So, right now, I'll say only 5 students that have taken the exam, the written portion, are below competent, and that's usually in our healthcare program because it's such a hard test. So right, we're at a 95% pass rate with competent or advanced on their testing. So, and if you want to come for a tour, you're more than welcome to. I like giving tours. Oh, thanks, Patty. I'm taking Patty's report. So Cinco de Mayo, our first community meal since the restrictions have lifted, is a $20 community meal, 4:30 sitting and a 6:30 sitting. All you can eat. Everything is from scratch, and it's really good food. So there we go. All right, thank you.
I'm going to move on to personnel, 6.1.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve 6.1 through 6.5.
I'm going to ask you to take 6.1 out.
Okay?
You want to do 6.
I'm sorry, 6.2 to 6.5.
We'll skip 6.1 for just a second.
Yeah.
So the motion, I need a second. I have a motion, a second, to approve 6.2 through 6.5. Do I have any questions or comments?
One quick comment on 6.2, the retirement of Laura Swinehart. We just wish her luck in her new adventure, and thank you for her dedication to Pottsgrove.
Yes. Any other comments? Hearing none, all those in favor? Any
Aye.
opposed? Motion passes. Let's move back to 6.1. Need a motion. I need a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve 6.1.
I have a motion and a second to approve 6.1, retirement or resignation for an administrative staff. Do I have any comments or questions?
Yes, I would like to make a comment. So tonight, unfortunately, we are voting on the resignation of Dr. Kate Pacito. I have known Kate for just a short time, since I started with the district in July, and I have been incredibly impressed with the quality of her character, her ability, and her heart. She has been an incredible director for us here, and a very important colleague for me. I will miss her dearly. I'm very sorry to see her go. I'm also very happy that she is following her career path. She is, some district out there is going to be really lucky to have her as a superintendent someday. So thank you for everything you've done for our district. And personally, thank you for your counsel and everything you've done since I've been here. And best wishes.
Any other comments?
Just to say the same thing, just working with you for a number.
I'd just like to say, Kate, thank you so very much. I've always known you had the biggest heart for the kids, especially the kids who really, really needed it, and an advocate for the kids who really needed it. So you just come back and say hello to our kids. I know you will. But congratulations and good luck with your next journey.
I'm going to obviously go by everybody else. Although we didn't work a lot together over the past 6 years, except for with policy and such like that, I've heard from so many individuals who actually decided to move into our district just because of the program you ran. So that goes to show how strong of a leader you were and where you took this district going forward. We are definitely going to lose a very strong person, and Phoenixville is going to take something away. Good luck. I need a, we call it, all those in favor?
I'm just going to quickly be redundant and say thank you, Kate, for everything, and wishing you all the very best, and wishing you and your family all the very best. Thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Congrats. All right, we're going to move on to 7.1, action item business.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve 7.1 through 7.3.
I have a motion and a second to approve all action items in business, 7.1 through 7.3. Do we have any comments or questions? Hearing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes. Move on to action items education.
I'd like to make a motion on education that we approve 8.1 through 8.8.
I have a motion and a second to approve all action items under education. Do we have any comments or questions?
I have two comments. I would like to see if we can have an explanation over the 8.2 overnight trip, Pennsylvania Envirothon competition. I've never heard of that. And number two, just wish the DECA Club good luck on their championship. So
the Envirothon, and perhaps Mr. Voorhees can add additional language if I fail to capture the spirit of it. I do have some history with Envirothon in a prior district. It is a science-based competition, and specifically environmental science. The students at Quakertown, when I was there, participated every year I was there. I don't know that we ever made it as far as apparently Pottsgrove kids have made it. So, yeah. Mr. Voorhees, is there anything additional you'd like to add to that?
No, just that, well, at least since my time here, but I believe long before that, our students have been.
And these are all approving the overnight trips should students qualify for it in 2023.
I'd just like to say it's nice to see overnight trips again on our agenda. I'm really happy for the kids that they're getting to do this stuff again because it was, the year. I know they just came back from Wallops Island the other night, I think. What was it, Friday? Yeah. Oh, was it really? Yeah. Anyway, they're all just, they mean so much to the kids, and it really adds to their to their time here. I would like to see if maybe, I know like field trips and stuff have sort of stopped at the younger grades, and it's a shame. I think it would be nice if there were some more field trips. They haven't stopped?
I think so. I think it's just that these are overnight ones, and that's why we see them.
No, that I know. I'm just saying, I know when my daughter went through, she had not one field trip from middle school on. Nothing.
Oh, from the middle school?
Yeah. Like they used to do,
K-5, I know
they used to do the Renaissance Fair and stuff like that in middle school, and they just stopped doing it. I just thought it was a shame.
Any other comments or questions? All those in favor? Any
Aye.
opposed? Motion passes. Moved on to committee items, 9.1.
I'll make a motion that we approve 9.1, the minutes.
I have a motion and a second to approve 9.1, the minutes for the policy committee. Does anybody have any comments or questions? Hearing none. All those in favor? Any
Aye.
opposed? We're going to move on to operations facility committee meeting. Dr. Nippert, is he going to do it over the phone, or are we going to? Okay. Dr. Nippert?
What I'm recommending is we met on April 12th, and I think I think what we ought to do is pass on to Ron and let him discuss the meeting rather than me do it here. So let's let Ron,
You got it. It's all budget anyway.
yeah,
Thank-
it's all budget. There's only one point I'll talk about once Ron's done.
Thank you, Dr. Nippert. At the last Facility Operations Committee, we and the last item we discussed was I reviewed the update of the 22-23 budget. When we originally presented the budget, we had a little over $1 million deficit, which would have required, I think, roughly about a 2.6% tax increase at that time. Right now, we're down to about a little over $740,000 deficit. That equates to about a 1.89% tax increase. What we're looking from the board is direction, because on May 10th board agenda, the proposed final budget will be on the agenda for adoption, because there's not 30 days 30 days in between the second meeting in May and the meeting in June. So we have to adopt the the proposed final on May 10th. So we're looking for direction from the board as to what tax increase you're willing to accept, keeping in mind that we do have the 10-year capital plan that has a pretty large price tag. We, at the committee's request, added $1 million line item to transfer to capital reserve to help address that plan. It's not enough, but it's a starting point. The average is about $5 million a year to fund that plan. Just that alone would be a 10% tax increase, which you cannot do because you passed a resolution. But I'm looking for, what your tax increase tolerance is, what your tolerance is for funding the capital plan. Got to keep in mind that we're currently in negotiations with the teachers. Not knowing where that contract may go, we may have to fund more cost than we anticipated. And we also have to consider the disappearance of the federal stimulus money in a few years. And we got to start planning for that hole to be filled at. So we're just looking for direction from the school board. And just to fill in everyone's thoughts, I was requested to get some surrounding tax increases. Daniel Boone right now, when I checked with their business manager, they were at 0%. However, they just got back an RFP for transportation that's about to increase their budget by $1 million. So they're back to the drawing board as a tax increase. They're making their decisions, I think, this week or next week. Owen J. Roberts is at 1.98%. Upper Perk is a challenge at the moment. They are using $4 million of fund balance to balance their budget. They didn't say there was a tax increase. I don't know if it's because their fund balance is too high. They're not having a tax increase, but the business manager told me they're using $4 million of fund balance to wrap up their budget. Phoenixville was at 0.99%, and Pottstown is at 0%, and I didn't hear back from Boyertown.
Let me just give my annual spiel, if you will. As Ron indicated, it's a proposed final budget, and it really is, those of you who have been here for a number of years, it does not lock us into that number, the final budget. I always urge the board, I don't want to become a board member. I don't really have any desire to support or detract from the budget, but I do urge the board every year to keep it moving, because I suspect, I haven't looked at the calendar, I suspect Ron has, and the reason that he's suggesting that we do it in May is because you have to prepare or adopt a final budget by the end of June, and so it is on a schedule at this point, and we may have to not have special meetings. I remember one year being here on a Friday night or the last weekend in June, and that happens. You're laughing, but it is what it is. But I'm asking if we get to that, we get to that. But right now, I'm not trying to minimize the vote or diminish what you're doing, but I'd ask you all to remember to keep the process moving, that you will have an opportunity to cut further, direct other issues. There'll be more discussion, I suspect, with the administration of the board, again, looking for more direction. More than I need to say, except at this point, you're not committed. We really do need to do this sometime in May so that we can pass a budget by June 30th.
Before I open up the discussion, because I am going to ask for some discussion on this, the one thing I did want to bring up, the plus and the minus of having our discussions now of budget in the facilities is great because we have a whole lot of time to talk about budget. The minus is we don't get a lot of time to talk about actually facilities, right?
Yeah.
So we have our 10-year plan, and we know our 10-year plan is like $55 million, which we're not going to get that. But right now, what I saw was we're still scheduled for $7 million for this summer. We don't have $7 million. So what I need to do is at least ask the board to make sure they are in agreement that we need to get the facilities to give us actual numbers of what we're looking at. What's our real end use for this? Because we've never gone over 2.5. We're estimating to give $1 million in the budget. Obviously, it hasn't been approved yet, but we're estimating that. We have about $5.7 million in there right now, and we obviously don't want to completely defund it. So I'm asking the facilities to give us some numbers as into what's truly needed and what's not truly needed at our next meeting.
I'll direct her to do that.
All right. Second thing, I do want to open it up to the board to give some direction, because we're going to sit there and tell them there's no reason for us, and we shouldn't be simply just after the 10th, it's 1.98, and you never even discuss it actually what the board's tolerance is until after the budget's actually done. So I'm asking the board to start, what are the numbers you're looking at? What do you feel is a proper number?
Al,
A proper number for,
That you can accept with a tax increase?
Al, I think there's 2 points. I don't know, can you hear me? Al?
Yes, Dr. Nipper.
Okay, yeah, I think there's a couple of points we need to discuss, because yes, the 10-year plan does exist, but the 10-year plan, in my opinion, represents preliminary estimates of things that we may or may not need. So your request for information dovetails with something I was asking Ron about, which is aligning the 10-year plan with a realistic number. $1 million was in the tentative budget. That's not necessarily a realistic number in terms of the needs of the facilities, but it's also a number that we have to use for preparing the budget. What we need are two things, and there are a couple of points I want to make before we go too farther. One, I want to congratulate Kate for her promotion, and we're going to miss her. But the other factor is there are several things we need to talk about. Points I mentioned was the tuition increase. We spend an awful lot of money for charter schools, and there's pending legislation that would limit the tuition charges, especially for cyber charter, which probably won't impact us. I think it may have been already mentioned, but is something we should encourage people to comment upon, because cyber charter is an expense that we have no control over. It's a formula computed by the state, and I don't want to go into the long details of how it was computed, but it's kind of arbitrary. And if just be very brief about it, if a child goes from Pottsgrove School District to a cyber charter school, he gets one tuition. If that child moves to, let's say, Daniel Boone, the tuition rate changes even though the education doesn't. So we need to address that issue. I encourage all my colleagues on the school board to look at the 10-year plan and determine what is something that's deferrable and what is something we need to do perhaps right away, because that's going to dictate, along with other factors, the tax increase that we're going to foster onto the populace. So again, that's something that we need to discuss as a board. Email me, you can email Al, you can email Mr. Linke, but we need input to decide what is going to go in the projects that the district has to look at for the upcoming year. That's all I have to say. And I think Ron spoke much better than I could regarding that. So that's the end of my comment.
Thank you, Dr. Nipper. From the rest of the board, we need some direction as into, are you happy with exactly how it's written? Are you looking for other ideas? Where are you? I'm looking at all you. I'm not the one. I'm not the one that's supposed to just talk. I'm here to facilitate.
Right now, we still need to find out, I mean, I don't know if Yvette's had a chance to look over the 10-year plan to find out which numbers are realistic, which numbers have to be changed for, at least for the immediate future. I realize some of the items on there probably are very obviously down the road.
I'm not talking about the facilities.
Okay,
I'm
but
talking about the
that's
overall
still-
budget.
I know, but that's still part of that factors into, from what we're talking about, that's still something that has to factor into. If there are things on there that are an immediate need, then that does affect the budget. So that's why, I mean, we do need, like you were asking, Ron, he needs to know what are those immediate needs. I mean, we sort of need to know that. I mean, the decision
I'm
without
not
still
asking
having
to make
any
a
of the
decision.
effects.
I'm asking the board's tolerance. All right, I'm going to go. All right. 1.9 is probably higher than I want to go. One of the areas that I've discussed prior, and I kind of have yet to get an acceptable answer, as into each year we've used our PSER budget to help bring the balance down a little bit. We've never used the PSER budget, but to balance the budget, we have. Now, right now, we're roughly 759,000-ish, right? And if we simply sat there and said, we'll use projectively 500,000 of that PSER budget, we would be down to less than 0.25%, or even, and it doesn't say we have to do 0.25%, but it gives us more flexibility for any kind of teacher contract or any other items like facilities needs. I'd like to know why literally that budget's going to sit there then and do nothing. And I understand the original concept was, let's just take it and move it all into capital, which the board didn't have a comfortable feeling with. So what is the plan then?
Well, right now, then my suggestion is we need to start tapping those funds to balance the budget if need be, to fill the holes. But again, you're using savings to fill a reoccurring revenue source. So eventually you're going to have to fill that hole with something that's always
not want to go to the public in October saying, we're $2.3 million off. We're $2.8 million off. That's not good representation to the public if I'm telling them we're so far off that we have so much extra money. And we took it from you and we didn't use it yet. You know, I understand we may need it. And I understand we want to keep our taxes, not necessarily say we're going to keep our taxes low, because we are the fourth, if I'm not mistaken, we're the fourth highest in Montgomery County. And as we've gone, we've closed the gap a little bit. It's very little, but we've closed the gap a little bit. Right? I want to continue to stay on that path, as in I don't want to be, okay, we're at 1.98 and our neighbors are at 0, or our neighbors are at 9. Now the gap grows again. I want to be a consistent low number for every year, so that it is a consistent number that our constituents could say, okay, I can live with 1%, I can live with 1.25, 1.5, whatever it may be. I don't want to hit them with a 3 or a 4.
Understood.
Is there any word on the budget in Harrisburg?
I have not heard any word yet. I think there's still budget discussions, and I can reach out to some other people to see
Yeah, I
if they
just
heard.
wasn't sure if you heard now.
I have not heard anything, unfortunately.
Okay,
It's
well,
been pretty
thank you
quiet.
Thank you for that. Now, my biggest concern is just to, as a household member, prices in gas, prices in food, everything's hitting everybody all at once. And I really don't want to raise the taxes any higher than we absolutely have to, because it's tough out there. And I know we're all feeling the pain. And, you know, if we have to take some of the money and use it towards, to bring us closer, I think that would be a better option. But I just think right now, it's just a tough world out there financially. It really is. You know, you go buy 5 things at the grocery store and it's almost like $70, $80. I mean, it's ridiculous, but that would be my concern.
During executive session, the discussions we had, were those affected, how will that affect budget? Our discussion earlier during executive session, we were going over we went over multiple topics, like from everything from the survey to, but we had some items that we discussed that could affect budget.
Yeah, so the primary drivers of our budget are salaries and benefits, and the largest category of salary and budget is our teaching staff. So we have a couple unknowns there. We have some unknowns with regard staffing. We always get retirements, and to kind of go back to something earlier Mr. Leach said about surpluses, one significant player in the creation of a surplus that we cannot, you just have to accept it's going to happen, is when people leave during the year, we budget for their salary, and then we hire somebody sometime after that. It could be 60 days later where we don't even have anybody in there. And we typically, the person you hire is typically cheaper. And that is a big contributor to our year-end surpluses. And that's not something that you can budget for. So that's something that is just, you have to accept that there's going to be some of that. If you budget for it and people don't leave, then all of a sudden you're in a deficit. So that's one issue. And then the unknown is, as Mr. Linke said, we're in the middle of negotiations. So where the cost of the contract, we don't know that yet. So I think there's some impact there that we have to factor in, but without any precision. I don't know if that wholly answers your question, but I hope it cleared up something.
Let me ask you a question to the board. Is the board happy right now with how it's written, and then we're going to proceed as we get more information over the next month? Is that where the board is happy as it is now? I don't want to turn around and say, oh, by the way, we're not happy now with 1.98. You find a way to get it down to 0.5. That's very difficult now for them to do. right? So I want to make sure the board is okay with where it's going.
I'm okay with it. To sort of do a wait and see. I mean, I can't commit to anything right now other than, want to keep our taxes as low as possible. We were number 2 in the county.
Number 2?
We were. We're now 4. So that's a good thing, that we're moving down the ladder rather than up. And I'd like to at least stay there and not start creeping back up again.
All right, so we'll go with that. Obviously, this is not an item. This is, Tina, do you have something?
I was going to concur with you that the 1.98 is much higher than I would be comfortable with because of how much we're already paying, because we have so many moving parts, because we have the dollars that we considered moving to capital initially, and then we held off on that because it just, at the time, it didn't feel like the right time to make that decision because of the moving parts that we have. And looking around at our neighbors, you can kind of see that they're being pretty conservative with their numbers as well. So in order to keep the process moving, of course, I would want that with the understanding that we're not going to be sitting at 1.98 by the time it's all said and done, with all the moving parts then stopped and put in their places.
Anybody else before I move on?
I, just one last
I just want
remark there. I
to
think
clarify
this is
with Mr. Linky, does this give you the guidance that you need?
Yes.
Dr. Nippert has a question? Comment, go ahead.
No, I kind of want to concur with what Tina was saying, because the percentage that we can afford is, was specified earlier, and I think that was a reasonable specification for what we can afford. And, I think of when I was a parent, well, I still am, but when my daughter was younger, she wanted a pony. Lots of girls want ponies. And I was an untenured college professor on a low salary. Ponies were not in the cards. And we had to find alternatives. I think that's where we're at now regarding this issue. We need to balance what are unlimited wants, some of which are very good and very necessary, and very limited resources. And this board has to be the person to say, sorry, you're not going to get a pony. And I don't like that particular metaphor, but I think it describes the situation that we're in. We have to make some very hard choices. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Nippert. All right, so we're going to move on. I'm going to back up. We're going to move on to the report of the athletics. I believe this is going to be Steve.
Yeah, unfortunately, I was unable to attend, so Steve said he would report out for me.
All right, thank you, Board. April 19th, we met in our athletics co-curricular community relations. Had a very productive meeting. We do plan to pursue our Huddle live streaming, a project that we've been talking about for a couple of years with the help of multidisciplines, our technology department, our facilities department, and our community relations department. We are moving forward with streaming events held in the gymnasium, Falcon Field, and our football stadium next year. So work in progress. We're going to use Huddle as our platform. A lot of our athletic teams use that now. We'll take the feed from the Huddle cameras that will be placed in the 3 locations, and that feed will go to a YouTube channel that the athletic department set up during the pandemic when we couldn't allow fans or limited fans to attend. So we will rely on that. Huddle or the YouTube channel will have, anybody will be able to access that. From the department, we'll be able to set up, schedule the events, the cameras come on, and then anybody can watch the feeds of those. Athletic events, right now it's 11 programs, but any other event that is held in the gymnasium, Falcon Field, or the stadium will be able to be streamed. So that is, depending on inventory, and our technology piece that Dr. Ramage worked through E-Rate, and our facilities department being able to get everything up. Our goal is by August of '22, we're streaming all of our events. So very positive for our district. We look forward to doing that and getting our events out there. Next part is we talked about our unified sports program that is in year 3. Fortunately, we have met all the requirements through Special Olympics to add the sport of bocce, what we initially tried to do first year, but it wasn't available just due to the demand and the number of teams we have in Montgomery County. But since we had a very successful program over the last 2 years, and we've worked hand in hand with Ashley Herr, who is the Eastern Regional Manager of Special Olympics Unified Sports, we are on the list for Unified Bocce next year, which will take place in the winter. Our commitment to that is an $1,800 line item that will come out of the athletic budget, but it's another opportunity for our students in inclusion-based athletics. So we're really, really happy to bring that on. I think that's going to be exciting, and obviously another an opportunity that sports will be held in the gym, so we'll be able to stream it. So really cool. And then the last piece is we did an inventory of our community service projects that we have going on right now. I provided that with the committee. We have roughly about 308, 309 students that have been involved in some type of community-based service, K through 12. I did meet with all of our elementary principals last week to talk about some of our community service projects that will be moving forward this school year and next school year. And I think that 308 is actually a little light. There was some project that came up that they didn't even realize were community-based projects. So we'll continue to add that number, but that gives us a quick inventory of where we are currently and all the great things that all of our students do K through 12 from a community service base. So I don't think I'm missing anything. So that concludes our report.
Mr. Ansbach, in the meeting, we discussed actually bringing the approval of the unified sports.
Yeah. So, and Mr. Linke, so unified sports is $1,800, which will be required by Special Olympics. So we would, $1,800 would go to them, but Special Olympics would then still pay for the coaches' stipends, pay for uniforms, pay for all the equipment. So before it was a grant, we wrote a grant through Special Olympics. We did an MOU and they funded it. After 2 years, Special Olympics no longer does that, so it becomes the responsibility of the school district. So we're looking for $1,800. That would be a yearly cost to run both unified sports and bocce. So it would not be $3,600, it would be straight $1,800 for next year.
So I believe this was actually supposed to be on the agenda, but I didn't see it on the agenda. Did anybody see? I didn't see any approval for that on the agenda. So does it need to be amended and be done now, or can in 2 weeks you get this approved? Where are we at on, do we have to have approval tonight?
If we can get approval tonight, I would recommend that to the board. But if we can't, if that's not following procedure, we can
But
move.
we'll do what you need to do. Look, I prefer, and again, it's not the end of the world. If it can wait 2 weeks, I don't, I prefer to keep us out of amending agendas all the time and doing things from the floor. But certainly we can do that.
No, we could go to the May 10th meeting. It's not, but we are on the board for Special Olympics, so to follow procedure, that's fine. But if we can add that as a line item to the May 10th meeting, absolutely.
And you're sure you don't need it approved tonight?
We are on their docket for next year, so that.
Okay, then
that's-
we can, we'll make sure it's on the agenda.
That's, but we will need the approval for the $1,800 to move forward with the program for next year. And again, I just want to be clear that $1,800 is for both bocce and track and field for next year. So it's 2 programs for $1,800.
It's gonna get approved, we just didn't know if it was approved
Yeah,
tonight.
no, following procedure is fine. I totally understand.
I just want to say real quick, Steve, I know how hard you worked on this, and this was kind of like your brainstorm to bring these kids. So this is something that you reached out for these kids that can participate in this, and we need more of this. So I commend you, and I thank you so much for reaching out to those special students that this is going to be a blast for them, and make them part of the more of our schools, because they have their own sports. So thank you.
Do we have any other comments or questions? Thank you, Mr. Oswald. We're going to move on to curriculum report.
Okay, so we had our meeting on the 19th, and we had a few of our community members join us, and I say it all the time, I love our committee meetings because it's where we can all get around the table and talk and share and learn about what everybody's doing and ask any questions that we might have. And everybody knows I'm a big fan of show and tell, and so thank you, Mrs. Breyer. Our agenda was light. There were only a few items on it, but the items themselves were very, very dense. And so one of those items was the literacy curriculum renewal for grades K to 5 and 6 to 8. And part of what we wanted to show was there was such a collaborative effort. Mr. Voorhees was explaining to us that a number of teachers came together and spent hours upon hours diving into the curriculum to see what makes the most sense, what program do we want to use. And they really were able to just exercise their voices to say, these are the materials that we want to teach with. This is what makes the most sense to us. And we are very blessed tonight because we have some educators here tonight to share that experience. And I don't know if they might be willing to come forward and just give us a glimpse, because as Jay mentioned during our meeting, you know, if we sit here around the table, it might just look like, oh, we're buying new books and it's this much money and it came under budget. Yes, that's awesome. But until you actually hear the person and the people who are working with it every day, you don't get to really see the excitement behind it. And that's what we're all here for. So again, if you might want to come forward and give part of that information, that would be great.
Putting them on the spot.
Yep. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Just to add on to what Mrs. McIntyre said, there's hundreds, when you add up all the hours of the individuals that have taken part in this, to get to a decision, it's hundreds and hundreds of hours. So there is a slide that we'll get to in a little bit that recognizes all the individuals that played a part in that decision-making process. Two of those individuals are here tonight. One is Mrs. Brenda Novak. She's a grade 5 teacher and a team leader over at Lower, and the other is Mrs. Susan Smith. She is a grade 8 English language arts teacher and also department head up there at the middle school for the English department. So as Mrs. McIntyre said, I'd like to turn it over to them as they can kind of share some of the process as well as what the recommendations are.
I feel so important sitting at this seat. I'm Brenda Novak. I have spent my entire career at Pottsgrove. I love Pottsgrove, and I am so proud to be a Pottsgrove teacher. I was fortunate enough to work with Daniel. He has us go through a very democratic process to make sure that every teacher has a voice in the curriculum that they're going to teach. You want teacher buy-in. You have to have it if you're going to have an effective program. So when Daniel asked if I would speak per Tina, Mr. Strunk, I thought of you immediately, because last time we met at the CIT meeting, I was at the CIT meeting last week, and really thought about what you said. And you said you loved Daniel's presentation. It was collaborative, very informative. But you said, what are we buying? I'm a hands-on learner. Show me, what do we have? So I brought prompts. And the biggest thing, like this, I talked about the anthology, and this is just a collection of stories that every child will get grades, I think kindergarten, I'm pretty sure it's kindergarten through 5, right? We all get the anthology. And the great thing about the anthology, it's amazing stories, but the stories reflect our population. So it's multicultural. So kids will see who they are by authors who wrote books that look like them, which was one of our non-negotiables for our committee. So this is here for you to check out as my hands-on learner. And I thought of you because at the essence of teaching, what are we doing? We're looking at how do we get to every single kid? how do we meet our kids who are flying high to our kids who are struggling? And that was why we went with Wonders for grades K through 5, is because we thought it was the program that allows us to teach the curriculum that we need to teach the curriculum. It's one resource that we will use. The beautiful thing about it is it has a program called WonderWorks, which is tier 3 for our neediest children. And then the other thing we have are all of these little books, and they're nonfiction and fiction, and every kid has an opportunity. Our children that we're working with ELL, our above readers, our below readers, on-level readers, everybody's an opportunity. So we're supporting our tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 learners. And the thing that I had said to you that I was most excited about was the reading companion. And this is a collection, again, of different stories, much shorter stories. But this is your hands-on learning for our kids. And so many of our kids are hands-on learners. And to me, the Wonders program of old did not have this. This is the biggest change for me. And when I went through it and I saw that they had this, I'm like, Daniel, we need this program. And everybody that would listen to me, because they were sick of me talking about curriculum, because it is one of my passions. But how amazing that this one tool is. And it's one tool in a plethora of tools that Wonders offers to meet all of the needs of our students. And it's one tool when we teach our curriculum. Wonders is just one tool of all the other tools that we're going to use. And Daniel does an amazing job of making sure that the teacher knows the most important resource in the classroom is the teacher. Wonders is one tool your school board is giving you. The other tools are the other things that teachers bring into the classroom that will complement this. So with this reading companion, it gives every child an opportunity to talk to text, to interact with text, to what do they know about the world and bring it in there. And then it gives us an opportunity to see what the kids are doing. And from beginning to end, how did they grow? Like, what were their answers in the beginning of the year? What did they look like compared to what they look at the end? So it's a portfolio of their learning, and that's the newest piece of Wonders that is amazing. And then the last thing is the resources for the teachers. They've really upped their game in supporting the teachers, because time is our nemesis. We always, when you ask a teacher, what do you need? I need more time, which you can't give me more time. So you have to give me tools that make me more effective with my time. And Wonders has done that. Wonders has given us tools to make our time more effective. We have research-based tools at our fingertips, which allows me to teach that. And then when I have extra time, instead of looking for other things, it's there. And then the things I'm really excited about, I can also bring in. So I think the teachers will be happy. This is for you guys. I will leave it if you want to check it out, because I talked about anthology and some other things. So it is amazing. It is worth your time to look at, and I appreciate you listening to me. And Tina, thank you for suggesting that.
I'm really grateful that you were willing to come, and for you as well. One thing, if I could ask you to expand upon, was something that both yourself and Mrs. Neeson had mentioned, which was the science of reading, more of a neurological approach, and we're learning more all the time. And so our books, and I'm not going to say how old we are, we're not quite written to the neurology of reading. Do you care to expand on that a little bit as far as what this program is providing with regard to that?
We're learning more and more that we need to focus on phonics and not just give kids books to read. The science of reading says they need to work with words. They need to understand how words work together, how those sounds work together. So making sure that you have a very strong phonics program along with excellent literature and opportunities to expand upon text. So when you brought that up last week, that was amazing, because that's what we need to do, and that's one of the things. Now, it's not the only thing. We use other programs at our younger level, K1 and 2 foundations, that is really pinpointing that. So you have a curriculum, and then you have a multitude of resources that you use. So the presentations that were given to us, and then the digging that we did with these, shows that they are listening to the science of reading, which is only going to make your teachers better, and in turn, be better for your kids. So I think good things are on the horizon.
Thank you.
Good evening. That's going to be tough to follow. Daniel said I would only have to speak for a minute or two.
Hello?
I'm Susan Smith. Like Brenda, I've spent my entire career here at Pottsgrove. This is my 26th year teaching 8th grade language arts, so it really is a pleasure to be here. We are hoping that you will adopt the Common Lit 360 program for the middle school. Daniel has been so pivotal in this whole process for us in making it easier. Teaching language arts really is an art, and there's so much that we have to cover. And that process with Daniel really helped us to have one focus and one goal through that development of our non-negotiables, and that really did just make the process easier in knowing what to look for, and also in just the process of looking at so many different resources. I think we started out with probably a dozen different resources to look at, and we were able to narrow it down to just a few because of that process, so that was really great. Common Lit is a comprehensive program in that it has reading, writing, grammar, and vocabulary, which is great for a language arts teacher because we spend a lot of time hunting for resources for our students, and this program has a lot already included. Everything from poetry to nonfiction to novels, and as I said, just grammar to go with it and vocabulary to go with it, so it really is comprehensive. It's going to save us time as teachers and the resources that we have to find, but it's also going to help make sense for the kids in that everything will be interconnected. It's not a separate grammar lesson or a separate vocabulary lesson, but instead it's very comprehensive and includes everything, which is great. The other thing that, as middle school teachers, we were very excited about is that it has a very clear scope and sequence, meaning you can very clearly look to see a particular skill in 6th grade, and then how does it change and progress to 7th grade, and how does it change and progress to 8th grade, which is so important because I don't want to have to reteach things that they learned in 5th grade, but we want to get them ready for the high school as well. So that's great with this particular program. I am so excited about the high interest that this program has. If you can hook the kids in, then it's so much easier to teach them if they're excited about what they're learning. And this program has that. It has everything from classic stories. I was just reading one the other day, Lamb to Slaughter, which is a very classic kind of mystery story, which I love, to more current topics, sports injuries, head injuries with football players and soccer players and wrestlers. So everything from classic pieces to more modern social media, for example, that I really think we're going to be able to hook the kids and keep their interest and do what we're there to do, which is teach them those skills, but do it in a way where they're interested in what they're learning. Thank you. Any questions?
I just, again, want to thank you for coming, and thank you, Brenda. You've already had a long work day, and then you were kind enough to come here and be able to speak to these programs, and I'm excited, and it makes me want to go back and relearn now that I know about the science of reading. Maybe I'd have been a better reader. But again, truly, just thank you, and thank all the teachers. And again, we're going to eventually have this slide up where the names of each educator who has come together to kind of say, yes, this is the program, this is what we're excited about, this is what's going to help us. It's so much better than just sitting here and saying, here's a budget line item that we're going to be approving. To just really hear from it. It's about you and it's about the kids. So again, thank you so much, and thanks again for hanging out with us tonight at the board meeting.
Thanks for having us.
Sure.
All right, I will try to be as brief as possible because I know we're moving on here in time. I too would like to thank Mrs. Smith and Mrs. Novak. Unlike them, I have not spent my entire career in Pottsgrove, but I can tell you I've not worked with better educators in all my time. So thank you to all of them for the time and the effort that they put into this. Chrissy, if you wouldn't mind progressing on there, we'll talk a little bit. You heard both Brenda and Susan talk about some of these things on here, so I'm not going to be redundant about those pieces. This piece in particular, I do want you to see. So we are recommending our grades 6 through 8 are using the Common Lit 360 that you heard Susan speak about. And then you see some bullet points underneath there that I think Susan did a beautiful job discussing. And you can see the costs associated with that. You notice that that's a much lower cost than what you see at the elementary level. That's for a bunch of reasons. Typically, elementary programs come with a lot of hands-on materials. That costs money. In addition, the grade 6 through 8 Common Lit 360 resource is really an open source. So the pieces that we're paying for include like some professional learning, and they include a data dashboard and things along with that. At the elementary level, grades K through 5 are looking at wonders. You can see the cost there. You heard us talk about the science of reading. And as we think about those pieces, really the science of reading and the research behind it is not new. In fact, it's decades old. But with every decade and every year, we get far more knowledgeable about some of the pieces that are within that. So for example, how does proficient reading and writing develop within a typical student? Why do some have difficulty in learning and reading and writing? How do we most effectively assess and teach reading and writing? And that's all quite complex because of all the pieces that go into it. So when you see things like comprehensive approach and things like critical thinking, that's really what I hope you heard in Brenda and Susan's comments there. That's something that we want daily in our kids. Gone are the day where we just want them to repeat a fact, but rather we want them to be able to face a problem and know how to respond to that problem. Chrissy, thank you. So on this slide, you see what our 6th through 8 renewal team looked like. And I can tell you, these were the folks that have spent hours and hours and hours. But our entire middle school English department becomes part of the process when we're really debating between the final, actually, I think it was 4, Susan, when we got down to that. So they were all involved in learning about that, looking at all the resources, experimenting with all the resources. Onto the next screen, you see our K through 5 team is a little bit bigger because we wanted to make sure we had representation from grade levels, special education, buildings, you name it, reading specialists. So all of those people have spent a tremendous amount of time really putting in effort to really make some decisions about what that looks like. Again, once we get to a certain point, all of our teachers have a voice in the process. They all learn about the different resources that are before them, and they get to examine them, learn about them, and experiment with them. And then Mrs. McIntyre, if you don't mind, I'll go right on to our summer learning series. We are very excited this year to be offering an abundance of opportunities over the summer for our learners. So I'm really going to put these into 2 different categories, one being an enrichment category, one being a remediation category. So the first of which is a grade 6 through 8 summer enrichment camp, and then there's a grades 9 through 12 summer enrichment camp. Everything that you see on the left-hand side is likely to occur, we partner with the MCIU, so it's likely to occur online because it is offering enrichment for students. But it's looking at providing enrichment in general English language arts, math, science, geography, history, and world history as we think about social studies. And then when you get to the high school level, you get far more specific. So we get right down to the nitty-gritty with Algebra 1 and Geometry and Algebra 2 and biology and earth and space science and physical science. All of those things will be offered as opportunity, again, with the idea of providing students additional learning time to enrich what they've already learned in a particular grade level. When we go over to the right-hand column, these are all in person, hopefully all taught by our Pottsgrove School District staff. Happening in person again, transportation will be provided. All of these programs on both sides are free of cost because of the use of federal stimulus funds. When we look at the remediation side, we have credit recovery for our students in 6 through 12. So that's an opportunity if a student needs to recover some credit for whatever reason they did not gain. They have that ability to do that, working with a program that we use, but also working with our staff. And then we have our summer remediation series really at the secondary level. That's really, again, offering, we're talking remediation, so it's going back and revisiting some of those same concepts that the student has already learned in a particular grade level. The Summer Success Program at the elementary level in the past really has been a K-1-2. We do this for incoming students, so incoming K, incoming first, and so on. And it's really an opportunity to kind of learn about what's going to be occurring in the next grade level. So really for our case students, for some students that don't have school experience, it could be their first school experience. For students who are transitioning to a different building, it gives them that opportunity, hopefully takes away some of those nerves. And then, of course, through Dr. Pacito, we do have the extended school year, which is for our students with IEPs that meets some specific criteria. So it's a plethora of opportunities that we're offering over the summer. We expect to be communicating these out to all families within the next 2 weeks. So that additional information will be coming about that, and if families are interested, there will be information on how to take part in that.
Question on the Enrichment design one, there was some question about whether that was going to be on a campus for the MCIU or online. Is that confirmed up yet, or are they still not quite sure?
They're still not quite sure. I actually followed up on that today, and it's really dependent upon the involvement of the other districts, because we're all kind of using the IU for that.
So it's still, right?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Just a quick question for me. What's the time frame on these?
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
So if you're looking at the remediation side, what we did is try to put it into 2-week buckets for our students, well, and really for our staff as well. So they're Monday through Fridays over the summer, and I have specific dates in front of me. But they're Monday through Fridays in the morning occurring. At the elementary level, it's a 4-week program that will be occurring for the students. You're welcome.
Thank you so much. And again, thank you, Mrs. Smith, Mrs. Novak, every single educator and administrator that was on that list for the countless hours spent. Again, it's about you, it's about the kids, and I'm so grateful that you could come and share with us tonight. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you very much. The amount of hours you guys put in, thank you. All right, we're going to move on to new business. Dr. Finnerty, you're up.
Nothing for me.
Tina.
Nothing for me, thank you.
Patty.
Looking on the agenda, all the upcoming events, this is the time to get out there and enjoy our kids. They've worked hard all year, and they're having concerts and color days Friday, field days. So get out there and enjoy this. This is what it's all about for the kids.
Jay. Anything else? Move it around. Jim.
Just actually, for next week, it's Teacher Appreciation Week, so just, I'd say like hug a teacher, but, that's probably illegal anymore, so we get slapped. But just appreciation for all the teachers out there here and online, and really appreciate, sorry being redundant there, but you guys have gone through hell over the last couple of years, but thank you all very much, so.
Bill. Ashley. Dr. Nippert online.
Nothing for me.
And Joe online. He dropped off. All right, and myself, I do have nothing. Do we have anything for public comment? No hands raised. Do we have any public comment here? No hands raised. All right, then we will see you. Meeting adjourned. I need a motion to meeting adjourned.
So moved.
Motion and a
So moved.
second. All
Second.
Approved? Wait,
Aye.
see everybody in a couple weeks.